If I had to sum up this entire video in a single word, it would be, again, like, I think at this point it's safe to say if we hear the words influencer and racism and controversy all in the same sentence, it's not going to surprise you. It's not going to surprise me. It's not even going to surprise Dave over here. This is Dave, by the way. He's part of my amazing new set because I wanted a backdrop that was as beautiful as I was. Obviously, that's not humanly possible, but I do think I got pretty close. And speaking of me, I am D'Angelo, and I am your professor of hydroacoustic waveform analysis, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe I'm just broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. Either way, in today's lecture, I thought we could cover Brooke Schofield. On the surface, this does seem like another dime a dozen influencer racism controversy, but I kind of have a slightly different take on this one that may surprise some of you. We're here to answer the age-old question, is this person's apology actually good enough? Go ahead and place your bets now for whether the answer is going to be yes. So if you're like, literally who is Brooke Schofield? Don't worry, I've got you. I think recently her biggest claim to fame has actually been her TikTok, where she uploaded like a 16-part series exposing her ex for being a weirdo. Apparently, it wound up in Time magazine, so one has to assume it was probably one heck of a story. I think he was faking being Australian or something. If you know the story and you can sum it up in something shorter than like a 16-part TikTok, please do so, because I have no idea what's going on here. What I know Brooke Schofield from, she is a co-host on Tana Mojo's Cancelled podcast. This video isn't about Tana Mojo though. This falls mostly on Brooke's shoulders, as you're going to see. So not too long after she really popped off with that crazy TikTok series, she immediately found herself in hot water, not just on social media, but in the mainstream media as well, because old tweets resurfaced. And do I even have to tell the story at this point? Just imagine a racist tweet from like 10 years ago, and it's probably in this list somewhere. We've got ones about her friends yelling racist profanities in a movie theater while people of color are sitting behind them. I said so many accidentally racist things last night, I don't even know how I made it back to America. Oh my God, I swear I had nappier hair this morning than most African Americans on this end of our country. Hashtag Afro. And you know, this was tweeted in 2012 when Brooke was literally a child, I suppose. But the tweets in question range from like 2012 all the way up until she was 20, I think. Our friend Brooke here was really trying to cover all her bases, by the way. Like, as you can see, it's not just racist against black people. What do you call a Mexican baptism? All right, Brooke. And it's also not just racism. You know, we've got the F slur in there too, because literally, why wouldn't we? But she's also got a slur for, I think, lesbians right here. So low-key, Brooke Schofield, CEO of equality? And, you know, between this and the fat phobia and all of this nonsense, I really think it's kind of easy to just write this off as very similar to the deluded ramblings of like any ignorant racist teenager probably raised around racism and who thinks this is funny. But the one that really got people, and I have to be honest, kind of got me as well, was when she tweeted, "I guarantee if Zimmerman shot a white guy, this wouldn't even be a story. Newsflash, this wasn't a crime of racism, it was self-defense." And if you don't know what this is referencing, that would be none other than the murder of Trayvon Martin, the 17-year-old black kid who unfortunately lost his life in 2012, which she is here trying to downplay as an act of self-defense, thereby excusing this literal murder of a child. I remember what happened to Trayvon Martin, and probably like many people, I got a really long talk from my parents about like how to dress, like where not to walk, how to present myself, what not to say, how far away I should stay from people for my own safety. Not even just because it was out of fear for my life, but out of seeing how quickly the world jumped to prove that lives like mine didn't really deserve to exist anyway if you could just be written off as self-defense. And sure, like I said, she was, I guess, 16 maybe when this was tweeted, but seeing as she was 19 when she tweeted this, it's pretty safe to assume there wasn't much character development. She brought all of that nasty racist energy right into her adulthood, which you hate to see it. Anyway, I'm only addressing the racist tweets, of which there were more of those, but you know, I just feel like I have better uses of my time than to go over every single instance of racism from some random girl 10 years ago. However, it's not really that easy to get into these tweets anyway because they are all gone. She completely nuked her Twitter account once it started going viral. And to be clear, these tweets have been haunting her for a while, but again, right after the peak of her super viral TikTok series, the very same news media outlets that were reporting on those TikToks were now reporting on the racism, so this was kind of just impossible for her to ignore. Thus came the apology. The first apology, actually. This is, there's levels to this.
Obviously by now you guys have seen the tweets that are circulating around. They unfortunately are not fake. Those are real tweets, like real things that I said.
I think that's an important distinction because a lot of times I actually don't even bother mentioning old screenshots as like, I guess, evidence of anything because they are just surprisingly easy to fabricate. But oof, guess that's not the case here.
I want to acknowledge that I feel the same way about them that you do. I think they're so disturbing, they're wrong, they're horrible, and they're disgusting.
Do you feel the same way about the tweets that I do, Brooke? I don't know. Let's just see. I wonder if she was really talking to me when she said that, or if she was talking to someone else. Let's just listen.
I do appreciate the people who are coming to bat for me and like saying like, you know, it was so long ago and like she's grown and stuff, but like it doesn't matter. Like it literally does not matter. They are horrible.
And yes, there were so many people just rushing to any comment section that was criticizing her for this, talking about how much work she's done as a person, etc. And you know, I sometimes have to question how they know. Like if somebody hasn't actually addressed the fact that they used to be racist, for example, what is really signaling to you that they're no longer like this? The fact that you enjoy their content and you couldn't possibly support somebody who's a racist, so she has to have changed, right? My opinion on this has always been the same. I'm truly not sure how you can claim to have grown from something that you can't even admit you did. So at the very least, this is why I am giving this apology video a fair shake, because here she is admitting it, plain and clear. So she gives not an excuse, but I guess an explanation for where this was stemming from.
I was adopted by my grandparents when I was like 10, and I grew up with them from that point on. And as is true for a lot of grandparents, they're a little bit less progressive than a lot of us are now.
A little less progressive than a lot of us are now is like a really funny way of saying immensely racist, but I suppose I'll take what I can get.
It was really just like me and my grandpa, and he is a very, very right-wing conservative man, okay? It was like my household was literally just Fox News all the time. Rush Limbaugh, like if you guys know who that is, like playing literally all day long through the house, and that was just like the only thing ever that I had been exposed to.
So that admission right there, I think, is the factor that sets this apart a little bit from a lot of these influencer racism controversies, where I don't think most people give a reason. I think I hear a lot of like, oh, I've grown and I've changed and blah, 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 blah. But I can't really remember anyone giving such a specific reason. Like Rush Limbaugh was playing on the radio 24/7 and Fox News was on all the time. And here's the part where my opinion may surprise you a bit. The reason she gave is so specific. It's not just that I believe it. I know that she's telling the truth because I was actually in a very similar situation. So I'm not actually sure where Brooke grew up, but she went to college in Arizona, which, as you can see, Arizona is very, very south. Like it is southern. It's hard to get any further south than the bottom of the United States. However, I achieved it because I grew up in South Central Texas, right about here. And the funny thing about right about here, and this just whole kind of, I would say starting from here, like this general area, man, there's a lot of racist people, dude. And if it's one thing a Southern conservative is really gonna turn up to, it's conservative talk radio. Like some people have their Eras tour or like their Renaissance tour. For these people, it is like the Rush Limbaugh tour. If you never have heard the names Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, you should just be so happy. Dear God. I like one YouTube video is not enough for me to convey the actual unironic trauma of being a person of color and overhearing probably hundreds of hours of conservative talk radio as a child, and just all of that literal brain rot infesting your thought processes and like filling up all the gaps, and any little bit of self-doubt you have, it kind of just festers and intermingles with it. So whereas a lot of people did not appreciate, I guess, the fact that Brooke gave a reason for why she was like this, I do. I appreciate this honesty here of saying, hey, I grew up in this area and this was taught to me as correct and I believed it.
Sometimes you like have these people that you like put on a pedestal and you think everybody older than you is smarter than you and knows everything, and they do not. Truthfully, it took me a really long time. Like I know some of the tweets I was like 18 and people are like, yeah, like she was old enough to know better. Like honest to God, you guys, it wasn't until like even after college that I really started to like shift my way of thinking.
I'm going to say two things and they're going to sound contradictory, but I believe both of them with pretty much my entire heart. On the one hand, it's really hard to undo indoctrination that you went through as a child. And for all the talk that conservatives do about like drag queens and they're turning the kids trans, they try to use children as like a cheap excuse to send hate towards, I guess, literally everyone for existing. Conservatives are the people poisoning the brains of children. Like literally, to even put this hate out in the world, that is causing more harm than a drag queen ever could, which is none. By the way, drag queens are harmless, so this is not even a conversation we have to have. In fact, I honestly believe a lot of like this conservative panic over, oh, the kids. Part of it has to be some sort of weird projection where you know that your entire existence as a hateful person, you are doing more to harm the youth of this world than any of the people you're talking about. Children are not naturally hateful, okay? You're never going to sit here and convince me that hate is a thing that is just in people's hearts from the jump. Children emulate what they see. So when you are not just emulating something for so long, as your entire childhood into your adulthood, but you are also getting this positive feedback loop of the adults around you, encouraging you and supporting and agreeing with the racist stuff you're saying, I get how you could be so entrenched in your racism that you start doing horrible things like writing off someone else's entire life, because at that point you're not even thinking about people's lives, you're thinking about them as statistics and numbers, and it's just highly dysfunctional. But here's the part where it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself. Even though that's really sad, I can't say I feel sorry for her now. You know what I mean? Like, sure, experiencing all of this as a kid is gross, and the adults in her life are far more responsible than she would have been at that time. That much is clear. I hope we can all agree. But the truth of the matter is, just because I too relate to the experience of conservative talk radio brain rot infesting your thought processes, I surely hope you don't think it was the same for me as it was for her. Because while she did have the luxury of viewing all the aforementioned people as numbers basically, or just little political plot points to support her agenda, these were my people, okay? I was people. I was the numbers. This is why my parents were so horrified. This is why I was so horrified. Anytime anything would happen, and it was always happening, the amount of like absurdly advanced thoughts that I had to have as a child when it came to the state of the world, which is no different than any child who's put in an impossible situation where you basically tell them, hey, this is the way that you are, but the way that you are is not okay. I really don't think that's something Brooke would understand. And so when I think about the fact that, yeah, I guess she did put in the work to unlearn all of this or whatever, nothing is happening to her. People are upset at her online, and that's kind of it, right? Like, she can close TikTok and this doesn't really affect her beyond that. Whereas many people watching this and many people who would have been affected by the things she was saying, we get to turn off TikTok and then wade into the exact cesspit that people like Brooke were helping to facilitate. So that's why to me, this isn't really a case of, oh, let's all feel sorry for Brooke because she grew up in a bad area. We're all gonna be fine. But I just think it's going to be a little easier for Brooke to be fine. You feel me? You feel me. But anyway, she didn't spend the entire video, I guess, trying to give reasons for why she was racist. She does definitely apologize.
I'm sorry, very, very sorry to anybody who is hurt by the tweets, because obviously they are very hurtful. Like, a lot of it is just like what, like, why would I even say that?
And she ends the TikTok by assuring us that she does not hold the views or opinions that she did in those tweets.
I need you to know that, like, is not how I think. That is not what I believe. And I am 27 years old now. I've had so much time to, like, learn and grow and, like, formulate my own opinions. And they are nothing like they were when I was 17, 18 years old.
I believe that. By the way, I'm not outright accepting or rejecting this apology just yet, but I do have to say, I believe that she's changed. Brooke has a lot of content on the internet of her just talking. And when people really are just racist, it's always going to jump out. So the fact that these things haven't really jumped out to any of Brooke's supporters recently, she probably genuinely doesn't believe these things anymore. But nevertheless, it's not quite that simple, as you're about to see. So I was thinking, instead of listening to all of the incredibly annoying people who are making excuses for her, why don't we listen to some people of color? It's a crazy, crazy concept, I know.
What I find the most discouraging about the tweets is not the fact that she had the tweets. Like, I'm not shocked nor surprised by that, but I am disappointed by how she chose to address it.
I truly have to agree there. I think, as I said in the beginning of the video, this wasn't a surprise. However, the amount of discourse I've seen that is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's okay, but why can't you believe it? Why can you not believe this? What is so hard to believe about the fact that a random American in the South was racist? I genuinely don't know where this sort of shocked narrative is coming from. And look, it doesn't matter how many people follow me or listen to the things I say. I don't speak for all people of color. I only speak for myself. However, I actually am going to take a risk here and say I'm pretty sure the average black person hearing about this is not the least bit surprised. But anyway, here's why this person thought that the way Brooke addressed it was not enough.
It just felt like a very blanket apology when a group of people were offended. When you're making an apology, honestly, in my opinion, it completely discredits what you're apologizing for when you say, I'm sorry to anyone I offended.
You would genuinely think that any influencer will just spontaneously combust if they specify the thing that they did. And to Brooke's credit, she did bring up the worst of her tweets, but truly, you would think some people are allergic to saying, I want to apologize to my black viewers for my tweets, which are racist towards black people. Also, she had a lot more people to apologize than just us, so that might have been kind of where she was coming from with the if anyone was offended. But nevertheless, I can understand where this person is coming from.
It just felt like she was apologizing to her core audience and not the minorities in her audience that she primarily pissed off and offended.
Like I said, I was getting a weird vibe during her apology, she just wasn't talking to me. But at this point, the only person who knows who she was talking to is Brooke, I guess. And me, if we're being honest, and literally everyone watching the video. But anyways, one point that was made, which I thought was actually low-key funny, was how stupid this controversy is in the first place. Not the fact that people are mad about it, but the fact that Brooke low-key allowed this to happen to herself.
And it's crazy to me how when you start to blow up on the internet, you don't start thinking about some of the things that could come back to haunt you. For me, I lost an SD card in 2014. That haunts me every single day. If somebody found that, I'm in trouble.
Genuinely, how in the world can you be any sort of influencer and not think to yourself, if somebody pulls up one of my social media platforms and scrolls far enough, am I going to be on the news? Again, with the theme of this video being how often this happens, am I really expected to believe Brooke saw the 10th racist influencer controversy of the year and she was like, wow, this sure is happening to a lot of people? Anyway.
And then for the women who are in the comments, the white women who are in the comments, accepting the apology. Use this as the I love Brooke button. The apology that should have been addressed to us should be accepted by us.
And to those people who do feel very strongly motivated, I guess, to excuse or dismiss acts of racism for any reason, I guess I would say make a list of things you could do instead and then rank them by effectiveness, and you'll probably find defending racism on the internet pretty close to the bottom each time. The internet has really got it in our heads that all of us have to have an opinion on everything that is happening all the time. But there are really things in this world that have nothing to do with you. It's actually a really freeing thought. And let's be clear, racism has something to do with all of us, right? When it comes to equal rights for everybody, when it comes to people being safe in their own homes, in their own countries, etc. Yeah, that has a lot to do with us. And I hope we all have an opinion there. But if that opinion you have is I don't think this is that big of a deal, or I don't think this person should be getting criticized so heavily, you might want to keep that one in the draft. I really liked this TikTok that said, while you educated yourself on unlearning literal racism. A little POC kid had to unlearn the self-hate you instilled in them. To anybody who has, I guess, more sympathy in their heart for Brooke in this scenario, this rich woman who will continue to be rich and successful and honestly face no consequences for the most part because everyone's going to forget about this. I just feel like if we were okay making it through the environment that people like her were contributing to, she's probably going to be okay in the end. I really don't think this calls for that much emotional labor on my part.
They keep being like, she was 16, Trayvon Martin was 17. What are we doing here? Like, teen for teen? Like, we got to care that your family was full of crackheads?
Like, it's not funny, but trust me, there are parts of this situation that are not funny. Nothing to do with racism is humorous. Nothing to do with the loss of life is okay or lighthearted in any manner. But in a vacuum, the notion, I guess, of like, oh, Brooke must be having a really hard time, you guys. It's not so much that it's funny, it's just laughable. You know what I mean? I think that's something I've realized recently where I'm like, man, why is my reaction to all of these horrible things just like some sort of weird, strange laugh? It's not because I find it funny. It's just because I can't take this seriously at all. Like, I'm being for real. Brooke actually put out a 6.5 minute response after everyone was dragging her first one for obvious reasons. And I genuinely can't take this seriously. I have been asked to care so often that I am at the point in my life where I cannot even spare 6.5 more minutes of my time while recording this video to have an opinion on this woman or anything that she's done, or frankly, anything that she will ever do from this point forward. Like, her cat showed up in this video and I literally just muted the video and was watching the cat because honestly, the cat is very cute. But then there's a part where the cat, they leave. And I was like, oh, well, there was the only reason I was still here. I'm sorry, Brooke, but it's really dawning on me that I don't actually care. I'm happy for you that you're not like that anymore, and it is objectively good that you were able to move past a lot of that, but I feel like I have limited reserves of like care at this point. Would it be wrong of me to save it for something else in this scenario? I am legitimately asking myself. Like, I am literally supposed to be breaking down the rest of the 6.5 minute video, and I'm just kind of like, what if I just told you what she says? She's like, you know, my original apology was rushed, and she's gonna donate to the Trayvon Martin Foundation because reparations, and I think the only part of this that really stood out to me was where she started talking about college.
I wrote my college thesis on racial disparities, so how things like socioeconomic standing, health, housing, income, and so many other things can be.
Yes, Brooke, I know what racial disparities are. I guess her point was that like she learned a lot in college, and this is where the seed of change was planted, and she could bloom into a less racist butterfly. But at the same time, I'm not even really sure she should be using college as an example of what she learned, because she says, I started faking liberal views when writing college papers, and it's so concerning how much my grades have improved since. So unless you want to explain that one as well, and maybe she does, maybe it's somewhere in here, but you know what? I think I'm just gonna dip, actually. Especially because the discourse around this is so annoying. When you got all of these non-black people doing things like this, we grew up bad, I love you, and growth from it is the biggest form of prevailing. Prevailing through what, Tana? Like, yeah, you're growing up bad, I get it, but what about all the prevailing through racism that everybody else had to do? Like, seriously, seeing people try to use this for brownie points of like, yes, I was in the same situation, I changed so much. Okay, would you like a medal? People try to do the opposite too, where they're like, oh, actually, I grew up in a household where I've never said anything negative in my entire life. I've always had the right opinions on things, and if I could have done it, I feel like Brooke could have. Great. Now what? Where do we go from here? It is stunning how quickly and consistently conversations about black people, or you can actually just insert whatever kind of people you want, always wind up being about not black people. Why, for some of y'all, do these conversations always wind up being about you. And when you couple that with the fact that, if you really think about it, literally no consequences are in store for this. Like, yes, she had a collab with Boys Lie and then they pulled out of it. But if you really think this is consequences for actions as opposed to a business strategy, I don't know what to tell you. And the fact that they have like a discount code for their product and the same statement where they're stepping away from Brooke really should tell you what was on their mind when they did this. And just because I or any person of color has the ability to put our feelings in a box for a second and deliver what sounds to you to be like a very nuanced and comprehensive take doesn't actually mean we have to. Would you believe that I am equally well within my right to neither accept nor reject Brooke's apology? I think that's actually what I'm going to do here. Brooke Schofield, you are neither forgiven nor non-forgiven. So just go languish in formerly racist influencer purgatory for all I care. I used to be really worried about saying things like, I don't care about this towards situations like this, because I thought, well, not caring is the same thing that racist people do, which like excuses and allows this to happen. But I sort of realized something. I care about the problem. Brooke Schofield isn't the problem. She is part of the problem. If you ask me or anybody else to care about every single part of the problem, we are actually going to be here forever, because this problem is very, very widespread and has been for so long and is still going on. The point of this video is that I don't actually see a point, because I have seen this too many times. I am radically indifferent to Brooke Schofield. Like, this cut article was really what drove it home for me when it was like, another day, another influencer's shockingly racist tweets. Where is the shock? Every single time a Brooke Schofield happens, I have less of a reaction. I have less shock, honestly. But make no mistake, my indifference towards this part of the problem is absolutely not an excuse of the problem in any way, shape, or form. People who are actually in the affected groups and are outraged about this have every right to be so. That is their reaction. This is my reaction. That's my take on the situation, or I suppose my lack of a take on the situation. Dave's take on the situation is that he was literally born before the birth of Christ, and yet he has somehow managed to never say anything racist on Twitter. So truly, there's no excuse. Thus concludes today's lecture. Now, one key thing about this channel that you may have noticed from the fact that I haven't uploaded in 11 months is that I don't really have a schedule. Like, if you want an example of what kind of timing I'm on here, this shiny play button that they've sent, I forgot to open it for literally 11 months. Like, I kept thinking to myself, wow, I have like 200,000 subscribers. I thought they sent these for 100. Where is it? On the floor in my office. But now it's here, and now I'm here, and now you're here. And this may surprise you, but I also have a video coming out tomorrow. And this is the part where Layman would ask you to subscribe, like the video, or leave a comment. But I will ask you to enroll, leave feedback, and evaluate the video. Because this is, of course, a 100% completely, somewhat, mostly, not totally unaccredited university that I'm running here. Probably. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll tell you. It's legit, I swear. And as for me, whether I'll truly be back in 24 hours or 24 months is honestly anyone's guess. But until then, thanks for watching. And if you're planning on getting famous on the internet within the next few minutes, you might want to take this time to double check your Twitter. Bye.